list of the most common jobs for men in this country and the list of the most common jobs for women in this country are two lists that have very little in common, it turns out. The jobs we do in this country, in this day and age, are still sort of surprisingly really segregated by gender. But whether you have an occupation that is male-dominated or you have an occupation that is female-dominated, there's one thing that just about every single job in America has in common. Dudes get paid more for doing it. If you are a driver, men get paid more. If you are a manager, men get paid more. If you are a janitor, men get paid more. If you're a retail salesperson, men get paid more. If you're a sales rep, if you are a cook, a chief executive, a security guard, a police officer, a customer service representative, in all of those cases, men get paid more. In 19 of the 20 jobs that are the most common occupations for men in this country, women lag behind what men get paid for doing that same work. It's also true in the most common jobs that women have in this country. If you are a secretary, men get paid more. If you are a teacher, men get paid more. If you're a nurse, men get paid more. If you're a cashier, men get paid more. If you're a receptionist, a financial manager, if you wait tables, men get paid more. Again, in 19 of the 20 jobs that are the most common occupations for women in this country, women lag behind what men get paid for the same work. Overall, when you aggregate everybody working in the economy in every job, women get paid 77 cents for every dollar that men get paid. For the same work, dudes get paid more. Bloomberg News crunched the numbers from the U.S. Census Bureau this year. They divided the economy up into 265 different occupations, and they found, surprise, no matter how you slice it, men get paid more.
Nationwide, the median salary for men is greater than women in 99.6% of major occupations.
There's only one out of 265 major occupation categories where the median salary of women exceeded that of men, and that was personal care and service workers, Mark. We're talking house sitters, butlers, valets, and even then it's only 2 pennies more on the dollar, or 2% more, that these women are making. So in 264 out of 265 of the major occupations, men are getting paid more.
In 264 out of 265 major occupations, men get paid more than women do. Republicans, it turns out, do not believe this. I did not know this was one of those things in which conservatives and the rest of the country have two totally different understandings about what is true, but it turns out that this is one of those things. And figuring that out makes a whole bunch of stuff make sense that never really seemed to make sense before. And it raises one really important question about the presidential campaign moving forward. President Obama was, of course, sworn into office on January 20th, 2009. 2 days after he was sworn in, the U.S. Senate passed a bill that the brand new president had been advocating for on the campaign trail, had been asking Congress to pass, had been saying he wanted to sign as president. If you're a woman working in a job and you're being paid less than a man who is doing the same job, that's illegal. That is discrimination. If the same company is paying a man and a woman different amounts for doing the same work and they're paying the man more and the woman less just because of gender, that's illegal discrimination. But how do you know it's happening if it's happening to you? I mean, companies don't generally volunteer that they're illegally discriminating on the basis of gender. And people in all sorts of different jobs don't generally volunteer their salaries to each other. So you have to know what you are being paid, and you have to know what somebody else in a comparable position to you is being paid, so that you can compare the two before you have any idea that discrimination is going on. If you find out that you are being discriminated against and you want to sue for that because that is illegal discrimination, it used to be that the statute of limitations for you being able to sue would start ticking on the date of the last discriminatory paycheck that you got. So there is a statute of limitations. You can't sue somebody for discrimination on a job that you quit 25 years ago or something. But every time you get a new discriminatory paycheck, that statute of limitations clock starts ticking again. In 2007, there was a court ruling that changed that. It said from now on, the statute of limitations starts ticking with your first discriminatory paycheck, even if you do not know that it's discriminatory. So think about this. By the time you figure out that you are being discriminated against at your job, too bad. The statute of limitations has run out. It's over. You have to live with it. Ha. I mean, discrimination is still technically illegal, but thanks to that court ruling in 2007, essentially now there's nothing you can do about it. It's a nice loophole, right? That bill that the Senate passed 2 days after President Obama was inaugurated, that then the House passed a few days after that, a bill that was on the president's desk 9 days after he became president, the first bill he signed as president, fixed that loophole. The Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, that's what it did. So if you are being discriminated against at work, if you are getting paid less because you are a woman, the statute of limitations will not be over by the time you can conceivably figure that out. You can actually take a discriminatory employer to court to stop the discrimination. It's straightforward as policy, right? Non-controversial. 36 Republican senators voted against it. The only Republicans who voted for it were the 4 female Republicans in the Senate and Arlen Specter, who was about to become a Democrat. That's it. All of the other Republican senators voted no. On the House side, 172 Republicans voted against it. Only 3 Republicans voted for this thing. And when that happened, I have always thought about that vote as just the first sign that Republicans were going to vote no on everything that Barack Obama supported, even anodyne, non-controversial, narrowly targeted solutions to real-world problems like this. But now we know that while women getting paid less than men is a real-world problem, in Republican world, it is not a problem. Not it's happening and we don't mind, but it's not happening. In Republicans' minds, women don't get paid less than men in this country. You know, look, in one profession out of 265, women are doing great. Butlers, turns out. It's awesome. The other 264 occupations, those are obviously just statistical aberrations. I honestly thought this was one of those issues where Republicans and Democrats might, disagree about how to solve the problem, or where Republicans might think it's more important to oppose the president than to try to solve the problem. Before yesterday morning, I did not know that Republicans literally do not believe this problem exists.
How, Rachel, should this conversation actually be framed? I've made the comment when I've done this topic before. In a lot of ways, men bringing up this question, it's almost a condescending question. Well, what is it that women want?
Right.
So what is the right way to be framing this conversation in this debate, which is a very serious debate, because we're talking about the real desires in the race?
Policy. It should be about policy. And all of our best debates are always about policy, and it should be about policy that affects women specifically. The Romney campaign wants to talk about women and the economy. The women in this country still make 77 cents on the dollar for what men make. So if women don't make less than men?
Actually, if you start looking at the numbers, Rachel, there are lots of reasons for that.
Wait. No, wait.
Well,
don't tell me the reasons are. Do women make less than men for doing the same work?
No, because...
Wow.
Well,
okay.
Well, for example, men work an average of 44 hours a week. Women work 41 hours a week. Men go into professions like engineering, science, and math that earn more. Women want more flexible
professions. Listen, this is not a math is hard
No. Yes, it is, actually.
No, it isn't.
Well,
listen.
All right, let Rachel frame it, though, the way
Rachel,
you laid it up.
Women are making 77 cents on the dollar for what men are making.
But that's not true. If so, every greedy businessman in America would hire only women, save 25%, and be hugely profitable.
I feel like this is actually, I mean, it's weird that you're interrupting me and not letting me make my point, because we get along so well, so let me make my point.
I will.
But it is important, I think, the interruption is important, I think, because now we know, at least from both of your perspective, that women are not faring worse than men in the economy, that women aren't getting paid less for equal work. I think that's a serious basis, a difference in factual understanding of the world. But given that some of us believe that women are getting paid less than men for doing the same work, there is something called the Fair Pay Act. There was a court ruling that said the statute of limitations, if you're getting paid less than a man, if you're subject to discrimination, starts before you know that discrimination is happening, effectively cutting off your recourse to the courts. You didn't know you were being discriminated against, you can't go. The first law passed by this administration is the Fair Pay Act, to remedy that court ruling. The Mitt Romney campaign put you out as a surrogate to shore up people's feelings about this issue after they could not say whether or not Mitt Romney would have signed that bill. You're supposed to make us feel better about it. You voted against the Fair Pay Act. It's not about whether or not you have a female surrogate. It's about policy and whether or not you want to fix some of the structural discrimination that women really do face that Republicans don't believe is happening.
It's policy, is the argument.
It's policy, and I love how passionate you are. I wish you were as right about what you're saying as you are passionate about it. I really do.
That's
For
really
example,
condescending.
No,
I mean, this is a stylistic issue.
I'll tell you what.
My passion on this issue
Here's a fact.
is actually me making a factual argument on it. Alex,
may I share one fact with you?
When
you look at, for example, single women working in America today between the ages of, I think, 40 and 64, who makes more, men or women, on average? Men make $40,000 a year. Women make $47,000. When you take out the marriage factor, look at some economics. My point here is that we're manufacturing a political crisis to get away from what this election really wants to be about.
Manufacturing a political crisis. What I wanted to talk about there was policy, about why Republicans would not support a common sense solution to a very specific part of the problem of women making less than men. But on the way to trying to raise that question, I accidentally learned, I guess we all accidentally learned, that Republicans don't believe that women make less money than men do. Women make less money than men do. On average, women get paid 77 cents for every dollar that a man gets paid. That's for everybody in the workforce. If you look at the most popular jobs among men, it is the same thing. If you look at the most popular jobs among women, it is the same thing. There are a few outliers you can cherry pick, like you can with any statistical truth, but this is a really, really clear statistical truth.
Here's a question. Do women in the United States make less money than men for doing the exact same work? On NBC's Meet the Press yesterday, the Republican strategist and CNN contributor Alex Castellanos answered no, and that sparked a very passionate debate with Rachel Maddow of MSNBC. We asked Lisa Sylvester to do a fact check for us. Lisa is here. Lisa, who's right?
Well, this is a fascinating subject, Wolf, and we have been looking into this. We reached out, by the way, to Alex Castellanos, but he was not available for comment. The question, is there an earnings gap between men and women? And the answer, according to the Census Bureau, is yes. Data directly from the Census Bureau shows there is a pay gap, and it's real. Quote, in 2010, the earnings of women who worked full-time year-round were 77% of that for men working full-time.
Women get paid less than men do. 77 cents on the dollar on average. That's true. Democrats know that's true. It is the accepted truth by anybody who's looking at the facts of the matter. Republicans do not know that's true. This seems important. I finally see this now. And it's important both in terms of the facts, but also in terms of the politics. I think this is why this debate has been so, talking past each other, so incoherent and dissatisfying. Republicans think that you solve the war on women perception problem by having your presidential candidate be seen with women. Right? That's Mr. Romney on the campaign trail today with Republican Senator Kelly Ayotte. She won Judd Gregg's Senate seat after he retired from the Senate. 2 days after President Obama was inaugurated, Judd Gregg was one of those Republicans who voted no on the Fair Pay Act. Because there is no fair pay problem, right? When they got in trouble on this issue earlier, they put out Kathy McMorris Rodgers as Mr. Romney's female surrogate to shore up the way people felt about this issue. She voted no on the Fair Pay Act. Mr. Romney himself will not say whether he would have signed the Fair Pay Act that President Obama signed. Republican Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin, who Mitt Romney has been praising as a hero, he just repealed the state-level version in Wisconsin of the Fair Pay Act. If you recognize that there is a problem with women getting paid less than men, a political party opposing, or at least refusing to support policy to fix that problem, seems like hostility towards women's interests. But if you don't recognize that there's a problem with women getting paid less than men, then policy debates about how to fix something that's not really a problem just don't seem that important to you. And so you downplay the importance of policy. And you can't understand why everybody keeps saying this war on women thing is going on. And your 17-point deficit with women voters, that's just the product of not putting your candidate out there with enough women standing next to him, regardless of how they vote and what they think. And that brings us to what's going to be a central bet in the campaign, a central question. Does the country live in Republican world where women getting paid less than men somehow isn't a problem, where policy on issues like this don't matter because it turns out women are doing great? While Mitt Romney was on the campaign trail with a female senator, Kelly Ayotte, today, on the campaign trail for President Obama in New Hampshire, in the same state, was Lilly Ledbetter, after whom the Fair Pay Act was named. The Democratic side is making a bet that general election voters are not Republicans on the set of Meet the Press. They are betting that the average general election voter does not live in Republican world, but rather in the reality-based community, where facts are useful for understanding what problems are, and policy is useful for solving those problems.